Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 22 video where today we're going to be checking out the 4-2-3-1, quite possibly the most popular formation in FIFA, just generally. I'm not sure if it's the most popular this year in FIFA, but the 4-2-3-1 is always a super reliable formation. Always one of those formations that if you're struggling, if you're somebody, and I get a lot of messages, whether it be on comments or whether it be in the Discord or wherever it may be, a lot of people ask me, they're struggling, they don't know what formation to go with. I would always recommend using the 4-2-3-1. This is always a great formation to kind of get you some confidence back. It's a very tough formation to beat, but it's very, very good at attacking as well. It doesn't just sit and be defensive. It's very, very good at attacking. So it's one of those formations that I always use this formation as a reset. If I'm sort of on a bad run, bad streak, whatever it may be, I'll just go back into the 4-2-3-1, just reassess, get some confidence back before I then maybe experiment back in some different formations. So without further ado, a few things with the 4-2-3-1 that are really, really important. Generally, the two defensive midfielders, as you can see, we've obviously got Kante and Patrick Vieira in those DM spots. Very important that you have out-and-out DMs. Because we are going to be playing with them as out-and-out DMs. So make sure you've got some proper defensive midfielders. Don't have just sort of some box-to-box mids. You really want some proper DMs that are very good at intercepting, because interceptions are a big part of this formation and why it's so successful. So you need proper DMs in those positions. So when it comes to the instructions, we're going to start off up front. We've got Ronaldo up front. Of course, your strikers in general want to be on stay central and get in behind. Obviously, your striker's most important job is to score goals. So you need to make sure he stays in the middle of the pitch. And obviously, if you've got someone pacey, which pretty much everybody does in this game, it's pretty much the way everybody plays is with pace. You obviously need to make sure you've got him on getting behind. An option is you can leave him on stay forward if you want. But generally, if you're going to leave your striker on stay forward, you do generally need to leave your other attackers up front as well. I don't personally like leaving my strikers on stay forward because I don't like that disconnect. I don't like having that massive gap between your midfield and your attackers. You often have to play some quite risky passes to get the ball up to them. So I don't personally like doing that. But if you're someone who wants to counter a lot, if you're someone who likes to play counter-attacking football, then I'd recommend having those guys on stay forward. In terms of the central cam, Cantona, he's of course going to be on get into the box and through him. Now, Cantona himself, if any of you guys have him, it's really, really bad. So generally, I will get rid of Cantona. I'll bring on winter wildcard Zaha, and I'll put Messi in the cam spot, and then put Pulisic over to the right, and then Zaha on the left. But generally, you want your best playmaker, your guy who has got the best shooting, best dribbling, generally your best playmaking player really wants to play in the central cam spot, and your faster players want to play in the wide cam spots. So that's why we put Messi in here. Of course, you want him to get into the box. He's got a, main job is to score goals. Free roam as well. I like the free roam because I like them moving around. I like to have him link up a little bit better with the striker, so I find that having him on free roam does that. In terms of the two wide cams, Messi and Pulisic, generally I like to have these guys on stick to position. Now, I have tried them with free roam. One of the problems I have with free roam is I find that a lot of the time when you have all three of these guys playing on free roam, sometimes there will be situations where they're all together and they're all on top of each other, and it becomes very, very crowded and very cramped, and it can become quite difficult to attack because they can find themselves in the same area of the pitch often. So I like to have him, just the two wide guys. I like to have them on stick to position because then they stay as wide cams. Obviously, if they're, like we said before, they need to be the ones that have got pace, so they're going to generally stay out there quite wide, but they're still going to get into the box. Their support on crosses are still going to get into the box. It's just that they're still going to provide width. One of the problems with this formation is that you do need to make sure you maintain that width, because otherwise it's going to become predictable to play against. Everyone's going to predict that you're going to pass the ball inside all the time. So I do think ideally I would prefer to have these guys on stick. In terms of the two DMs, obviously Kante and Vieira, two great DMs. We mentioned how important the DMs are in this formation. Generally, you want them on cut passing lanes, stay back, cover centre, and obviously stick to position. Now, if you find yourself it's too defensive and you struggle with necessarily getting forwards and attacking, you can always turn the two DMs onto balanced, and they will get forward and help with the attack a little bit more. But generally, I think the sensible way to play is to play with them as DMs. If you do have more attacking box-to-box midfielders, then I would recommend having these guys on balance. If you're like me and you have players like Kante and Vieira, then I would absolutely recommend playing with them on stay back while attacking. So dependent on your personnel will depend on which attacking support you select, but you know, it depends on which ones you've got. And in terms of the fullbacks, we've got Moreno and Darmian. In this formation, I would recommend having these guys on stay back while attacking, especially because we've decided to have Pulisic and Messi in front of them on stick to position. So generally they're gonna provide the width, so we don't need the fullbacks going forwards. If you want to have these guys on free roam, then you could have your fullbacks on balance, because then your fullbacks will overlap on the outside of your left and right cams, and obviously provide some width in that regard. And then Van der Sar, of course, comes for crosses and sweeper keeper. Now, in terms of the defensive style, I've decided to play on balance. Now, this is definitely a formation where you can play with a press. It is a good formation because it's difficult to play through this formation. As we've said at the start of the video, it's a tough formation to break down. And because it doesn't really have any weaknesses, it has obviously good strength in midfield. It has width. It has obviously that solidarity in defense. It has a good setup, so it is tough to break down. So you can get away with potentially playing with this on press after possession loss if you would prefer. I personally, the way I like to play, I'm not very good at pressing. It doesn't really suit my game in the way I like to play, so I play on balance. But if you are going to play with that press on possession loss, you do need to have a slightly higher depth. I'd probably recommend something like 65, because obviously you need to get that formation up the field. For me, I'm playing on balance with the defensive style. And when it comes to the depth, we're playing on around about 65 as well, because obviously if I'm not going to be playing on the press, I do need to get my team up the pitch a little bbit more. And generally we like to dominate possession, especially in this formation. It's all about possession, it's all about passing. So if that's your play style, then that's how you need to play. In terms of the build-up play, we're going to play on slow build-up. I think that works very well for this formation. You can play on fast build-up as well. I did try on fast build-up, and it was very, very fun, but it caused a lot of the games to be very, very hectic. I think maybe just because a lot of people in this game like to play a lot of counter-attacking football, so playing on fast build-up does leave a lot of open spaces, so it leads to us creating a lot of chances, but it leads to a lot of chances being created against us. So I like to have the slow build-up just so I can strengthen the passing game and the short game and work up the field. In terms of chance creation, though, I did play on direct passing, and that did leave some gaps, especially when defending. But in general, it made us have more chances. It provided more chances than it did. And I think if you was to have this on, for example, possession or balanced, I think you'd really struggle to create chances. I think you do need to have the direct passing, just so you have that, obviously, those constant attacking runs in behind. In terms of the offensive width, we're going to stay on around about 60. We've set up how we want it to be with the instructions and how we want the formation to play. Players in the box on 6, corners on 3, and free kicks on 1. Obviously, having a few more players getting into that box, but generally we want to keep it quite standard because we want our instructions to dictate who goes into the box. Ideally, the striker and the cam, and then the 2 wide cams. Ideally, we want Vieira and Kante to stay on the edge of the box. So to do that, we need to have them on 6. But that is it for the 4-2-3-1. Really good formation. Obviously, very, very reliable, very tough to break down, and just one of those formations that I think, regardless of how you play, this is one you need to always have on your slate of tactics and instructions. I think you've always got to have a 4-2-3-1 setup, because I think it's very tough to play against and always very, very reliable. So make sure you try out these tactics. If you do enjoy the video, do drop a thumbs up and subscribe as well if you are new to the channel. But that is all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.